So I will also be swatching with my Kakimori brass nib, and this is on my River City Penco nib holder, as well as my Speedball B nib, which I will also be using on my River City Penco nib holder. I love these because of the rubber insert for the nibs. Because I'm dipping these in water so often, that rubber insert actually tries to prevent at least some of the corrosion that happens when you're mixing this with water. So the first one I am going to get started with here, I'm like, why is my hand so gross? Hold on, I had glue on my hand from I don't know what. But anyway, first one is L'Écritoire Paris Encre Bleu Nuit. And I think Pam got this from her last visit to Paris. So let's have a look here. Ooh, it looks like a very dark blue. And Pam also knows that I need to have more blues in my collection. So let's first put this on the Endless Regalia paper. Then the Cosmo, the Rhodia. I love doing the different papers. Yes, it takes a ton of work, but it's always so interesting to see what each of these inks looks like. Now I've also, when I cut these are long strips of these papers, and I've only glued them at the very top and at the very bottom so that the glue doesn't actually affect the ink and the paper. And already you can see how different these look. Like this looks on the Regalia just basically one shade of that blue, and then you can see here it looks like a denim blue. I really like that, like a blue jean blue. Perfect. So then using, whoops, I'm trying to remember what order I did these in. I write the name first. So this is L'Écritoire Paris, and this is Encre Bleu Nuit. Pretty. Oh yes, I do the line widths underneath, and this is so smooth coming off the Kakimori brass nib. Really, really pretty. I like this blue. And I mean, I'm not seeing a ton of sheen either, which I like. I'm not a big fan of sheen, unfortunately, due to light sensitivity, but I really like the way that it looks on the bank paper. So that is L'Écritoire Paris Encre Bleu Nuit. The next ink is another L'Écritoire Paris, and it's Encre Sucre Rouge. So what is this? It looks like a red, orange, red, orangey red. And I accidentally got a tiny bit of the blue. Oh well. Ooh. Again, not a color that I normally go for, but I want to, at least with ink samples, expand what I've tried, or what I am trying. Because, I mean, I was gonna say, I could have too many browns, but you can never have too many browns. You don't want that type of negativity, right? I don't own a lot of reds. It's not an ink that I use on a day-to-day basis, just because I think I said it when I was doing my ink or my 30 days 30 inks with Diamine Red Dragon. I associate red inks with marking and school, and I definitely want to get away from that. Encre Sucre Rouge. So let's see how this looks with the line widths. Oh, that's pretty. Feels very wet coming off of the Kakimori brass nib. There we go. Really nice. And look at the way that, I mean, somebody has said this before, a few people have said this before, that I feel like maybe I got a bad batch of that Endless Regalia paper. But even just look at the difference between the Cosmo and the Rhodia. The Rhodia, it looks very flat. And I don't see a ton of shading happening with this ink. There's not a lot of pooling happening. There is a little bit on the Yamamoto bank, and it's so light on the onion skin. I really love that onion skin papers for swatching. But look at just the difference between all 6 or even all the 7 papers. So that is L'Écritoire Paris Encre Sucre Rouge. The next ink is Ferris Wheel Press Buttered Popcorn. And can we just look at this packaging? I think this is one of the original inks from really ages ago, but like, look at the packaging. And it survived my trip from San Francisco. Like, my only thing is though, like, if I put this down, I'm so afraid that I'm going to topple it over. And if you remember my ink spill from a couple of weeks ago, which left my fingers and cuticles blue, yeah, I'm very mindful, or trying to be more mindful anyway. I'm sure I will still somehow spill it somewhere. Oh, such a bright, fun yellow. I'm gonna put it over that there. And this is actually, I've tried this in a sample before, and I really like it because it is quite a legible yellow. And it's more, now that I see it here, it looks a little bit orangey. But it does remind me of like how yellow the popcorn looks when it's got that popcorn salt on it. Okay, I'm so afraid to put this down. I'm gonna keep holding it. Oh, oops. I was not supposed to dry that off. I'm off my swatching game here. Yeah, I really like this. It's a fun color. But also, yellow is so hard to find something that is legible and still classified as yellow. Ferris wheel. Press. I feel like my writing's not great with this. Buttered popcorn. Oh, I don't know if I'm just not getting a great dip on these. And look, it's all over my fingers already. But it's such a pretty ink. I really like it. And I like just the brightness of it. But if you're looking, yes, there's a couple of places where I did have to put glue down 2 separate pieces of paper, so that's what you're seeing there, and it looks more orangey on top of that. But again, the shading's not really showing in these papers, and I think it's one of those inks that does shade really well, but you're not really seeing that effect here. And it does look a little bit more orange than yellow across these papers. So that is Ferris Wheel Press Buttered Popcorn. The next ink is Ferris Wheel Press Peter Moss, and this is an ink that I've had a sample of before. Ended up using it all and still loving it, and I haven't been able to buy a bottle of it as of yet. But let's just, oh, I love green. I love just how, I say natural, but it's also peaceful. Okay, I feel like I'm putting a lot of ink on this speedball nib. One thing I have to mention though is that whenever I put ink down on that onion skin paper, even though it feels like I have barely any ink on the speedball nib, it feels like the onion skin paper just draws that ink out, no matter how much is left on the nib. Oh, so excited for that one. I love this green. It's one of those really beautiful greens I feel like you would find in nature. And look at how it's shading already. So thank you, Kay, for this. Ferris Wheel Press Peter Moss, and oh wow, big fan, big fan of this green. Love it. I love it looks so much darker on these, well actually even just Cosmo and Rhodia, a little bit lighter on the Endless Regalia, and then I just love the way that it looks on Onion Skin Bank and Yamamoto Bank. But then even on the Tomoe River paper, it looks a little bit more muddy, more dusty, and I love that. So, Ferris Wheel Press, Peter Moss. And one more Ferris Wheel Press, we have Stroke of Midnight. Now, I had a sample of this, I believe. I can't remember when, but look at the shimmer in that. It is so beautiful. And, oh, where is it? Kay was kind enough to also gift me this, like the little carousel thing that you put your bottle in. Now, knowing me, I'm still gonna be clumsy enough and spill that, but oh, it's like it hasn't even been opened yet, Kay. Did you even open this? Where do I want to put that? Over here. Okay. Oop, pop the bubble. That blue shimmer, like silvery blue shimmer. I cannot wait for that to dry and see what that looks like. I may have to put this in a pen right away, even for 30 inks, 30 days. Or this could be one for October, because October I feel like is fall inks, but also it's kind of spooky. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at the shimmer in that. That's so fun. And this is the thing that I like about shimmer inks, is that it can make inks even like blue, for example, which many of us, you know, can equate to first time we wrote with a pen in school, but it can make an otherwise maybe boring ink color just that little bit more exciting. Oh. Lovely, lovely, lovely. I just love how that's drying with the shimmer, but I also love how that's drying on the Onion Skin, the Bank, and the Yamamoto Bank. It's like a different tone of blue is the base color, and then here it just feels very, very solid. I say solid, but darker as well, whereas here you can really see the different tones of blue. There's a little bit of sheen that's happening on the Tomoe River paper and a little bit on the Bank, and I'm sure once that dries, there's going to be a little bit of sheen there as well. Brilliant color. Ferris Wheel Press, the Stroke of Midnight. The next ink is Mont Blanc Toffee Brown. Now, I have never tried a Mont Blanc ink, so I am interested to see what this is like. This is a brown. Here we go. Ooh, it feels like a very warm brown. Feels very smooth coming off that speedball nib. I don't have a lot of experience with Mont Blanc, oh gosh, I can't even say it, Mont Blanc inks or even pens. I've never tried one, and I also don't have any yearning to try a Mont Blanc. Not sure why, maybe it's just me, but it's a really pretty brown. It's like a very chocolatey brown. One of those where, I think I said this in a previous video, where a brown for me has to look brown when I write with it. Otherwise, it just looks black. And this one definitely looks brown in that little writing sample. Oops. Let's get a little bit more on that nib there. Oh, wow. Really, really lovely. And I'm already seeing how it's drying differently on the papers. It looks, I'm just looking here, just even the tone is a little bit different. I feel like it's warmer on the Rhodia paper and even on the Yamamoto Bank. So let's just wait for those to dry, because it's so interesting how different it's looking. It's a brown, but why would it look so different on these papers? Like a little bit more of like a lighter orange is coming out on the Yamamoto Bank and the Rhodia as well. Really interesting. And I'm so glad that I'm gonna get to try this. So thank you, Suhua, for that one. So that is Mont Blanc Toffee Brown. The next ink was given to me by Corolla. It's the Robert Oster and the Coffee Monsters Co. Coffee Monster. And another brown. But this one, I can already tell just from the ink sample vial, it's gonna look a little bit more yellow. Whereas the one above it, the Mont Blanc Toffee Brown, feels like it's got a little bit more red in it. Like this brown looks like, well, coffee. Whereas the Toffee Brown above it looks more like chocolate, if that makes sense. But it's so interesting to have two browns next to each other. And every time I do a brown ink exploration, I'm always blown away by how different browns can look within, you know, just even an ink exploration. You'd think like it's just brown, but the different additions of, I'm just gonna write R, whoops, very, very wet. R-O and TCMC Coffee Monster. But yeah, the different quantities of the dyes in here, or the different, you know, saturations of things, make the browns look completely different. They're both to me on like a warmer tone, but if you look in like the darker portions of the Mont Blanc, again, the darker portions almost look like there's a blue or purple hue to them, whereas this is more like a yellowy brown. So interesting. And even amongst the different papers, again, Regalia is not doing too well, but I like the lighter tones in the Onion Bank and the Yamamoto Bank, and it's so interesting to me that these look lighter than Cosmo and Rhodia. But I do like how it's turning out on that Tomoe River paper. I keep forgetting, like, yes, I'm comparing 7 different papers here, but my favorite overall is the Tomoe River paper, and it's the one that I use on a day-to-day basis. So that is Robert Oster and the Coffee Monsters Co. Coffee Monster. We have another brown. We have Pilot Iroshizuku Tsukushi. And oh, this one, just even from like the little bubble, it looks like a reddish brown. And I've tried this before. Ooh, that's a lot of ink, sorry. I'm actually glad I'm swatching all of the browns on the same page, because look at the difference between these browns. This one looks more similar to Mont Blanc Toffee Brown. Yeah, and it's got more of like a reddish tone to this brown. Just a little bit there, a little bit. And I don't know which, do I know which brown I prefer? Yeah, I think I actually prefer the Coffee Monster, like the yellowy tone to the brown. I think I prefer that. It's interesting when I compare browns on the page to see what I actually prefer, and I really do like this one, but also now seeing Pilot Iroshizuku, now that it's dried down a bit, it looks redder on the Regalia paper and the Cosmo, and then here it actually is, it's not as much red on the Rhodia Onion Bank, Yamamoto Bank, and the Tomoe River paper. Tsukushi. So I think I do like this too, but it's so funny how it goes down like it looks red, reddish brown, but then it dries really nicely to that brown tone that I prefer. So that's Pilot Iroshizuku Tsukushi. Next we have Robert Oster and Coffee Monsters Co. Day to Night, and this was created to go along with the Coffee Monsters Co. birthday sale. And I think, oh, I do like it. That tone of purple, really lovely. I like this kind of purple. I don't know what it reminds me of. I'm trying to think here. My brain, I'm having maybe a little bit of a brain fart as to which purple it goes or reminds me of. Oops, that is ink from someplace else. But I do like this tone of purple. It's not too in your face with purple. I like the more dusty purples. Oh, see, I am getting ink everywhere. I feel so out of practice. A day to night. I did have to take a little bit of a break from swatching all these inks because I felt like I had done so many, and I was doing, or still am doing, 30 inks, 30 days. So I had to take a little bit of a break from ink swatching. But I'm so glad I've done this now. And like, I really like how it looks on the onion and the bank. And even on the rhodia, it looks like it's got a little bit of a blue to it. This one definitely has blue because there's an ink splatter there from probably Ferris Wheel Press or L'Écritoire Paris. But just the way this swatch looks, this is going to be so fun to use in a pen. So that's Robert Oster and the Coffee Monsters Co. Day to Night. The last ink is an Atlas exclusive. It's Robert Oster Sidewalk Gum. Now, I've actually already been using this ink in my Mayfair Pens Naria model, and I have to say that I've been having a little trouble with it actually. I first tried it with my Imperial nib and it was just hard starting, and then I put just a regular fine nib on my Mayfair pens, and that's been working well, but it's had a few issues in terms of hard starts. It's a very, very pretty ink, and once you actually do get it going, it's lovely to write with, but it does have a few issues. So I don't know if that's enough of a deal breaker for me, but honestly, it's been so fun. Like, I like writing with it if it works well. Like, that's the caveat, if it works well. So it looks like it's got a dusty light gray purple base, and then you've got really pretty pink shimmer in it. And actually, I mean, if it writes well, it's got good flow out of a fine nib. So again, if it works well, it's lovely, but it has had some hard start issues. But it is really pretty. So I'm giving it a chance because I do like it, and I did go out of my way. I say out of my way, I basically ran into Brendan at the San Francisco Pen Show, but I love the way that it dries. It's really pretty. I just wish it didn't have such issues in a pen to begin with, but I'm holding out because it is really pretty if it works properly. So that is Robert Oster and Atlas Sidewalk Gum. So there are all of the inks now. I guess part 3 of my, is it part 3? Part 2? Part 2 of my San Francisco Pen Show ink haul. There were so many beautiful, beautiful inks, but it's funny how this side of the page is very rainbow primary colors. This one is brown and purple. I really like the tone of this page though. Really, really lovely. Which is your favorite out of all of the inks that I have swatched here today? Let me know down in the comments below. But it's interesting now to see, once they've dried a little bit, the differences in the papers. So for example, let me bring this closer to the camera. So we've got L'Écritoire Paris Encre Bleue Nuit, a little bit of sheening happening on the Yamamoto bank, and definitely sheening happening, a little bit of sheening around the pooling on the Tomoe River paper, but on the Regalia paper it just looks flat, and then you'll see a little bit of shading happening on these 5 papers here. Then we have Encre Sucre Rouge. Look at how light that looks on the onion skin paper, just so different. And then on the Cosmo it just looks flat. Not a lot of shading happening on this one, but a good, I guess, solid red. Oh, there is a tiny bit of shading here on the side. Then we have Ferris wheel press buttered popcorn. I really like this one. Now that it's dried a bit, it does look more yellow than orange. You can tell it does have a little bit of orange in there, but it is more yellow, and it is quite a legible yellow. Then we have Ferris wheel press Peter Moss. I really like this. I love that lighter tone green on the Yamamoto bank, but I also like the rustic look that it has on the Rhodia. It looks very flat on the Cosmo and the Regalia, although even on the Regalia, it's got a tiny bit of sheen happening on the pooling there. And then I just love the way that it looks on Tomoe River paper. Really beautiful. Then Stroke of Midnight. Now that the shimmer has dried a bit, it doesn't look as blue. It just looks more, it looks silver rather than a blue silver, but it's still really, really pretty. There's the dark, I say the darker, but the more saturated blue really comes out in the Regalia, Cosmo, and Rhodia. And then on the on the bank, it looks lighter. Interesting how that happens. Then we have really the browns that are happening here, and look at how different they are. The Mont Blanc Toffee brown definitely looks more reddish brown. No sheen happening on that there. Tiny bit of shading, but not a lot. Then we have the Robert Oster and the Coffee Monsters Coffee Monster. I really like this one. I really like the yellowish tone of the brown here, and it does have a little bit of shading happening on the Tomoe River paper. It does look a little lighter on the onion skin, the bank, and the base color here on the Yamamoto bank. And then Pilot Iroshizuku Tsukushi. It amazes me how it looks purple on Regalia and Cosmo. Doesn't that look purple to you? It looks purple to me. I almost mixed it up with the Day to Night right below it, but it looks purple on these two papers, and then brown with that bit of green sheen happening on the last 5 papers. I do like this. It went down this color and then dried to this color, and I actually really like that brown. Then we have Robert Oster and Coffee Monsters Co. Day to Night. I really like this tone of purple, and I like the darker look of it on the Regalia, Cosmo, and Rhodia. It looks a little bit lighter, almost pinky on the Onion Bank and the Yamamoto Bank. And then on the Tomoe River paper and that writing sample, I really enjoy it. I like this tone of purple better than the one that's leaning to the pink. And then last but not least, Robert Oster and Atlas Sidewalk Gum. It's got a base color of like a lilac gray with that purple shimmer. And I really wish it worked better in my pen, but we'll see how it goes because it's so pretty and it has the potential to be absolutely amazing. So those are all of the inks. Let me know your thoughts below. And you know what? I think one of the reasons why I took a break from ink swatching was because of all those little papers, but now that I'm doing them as strips, less work, but it's still so fun to see it all compared like this. All right, thank you all so much for watching. Don't hit that like button and to subscribe. Thank you again, and have yourselves a great day.